Hello and welcome to the 809 Book Club.
Hello,
I'm Isabel and this is...
Emily. Hello.
And today is January, and on January we're going to talk about Jellicoe Road. And before we start that, I'd like to mention our usual disclaimer, which is that we will spoil the book because that's the whole point of it. We're going to discuss the book to all of its twists, all of its turns. And so if you haven't read it, stop the video now, go read it. It'll take you about a day and a half, and then come back. And with all that, here's Emily.
So, hello. This is Jellicoe Road. It's by Melina Marchetta, and she is like literally my all-time favorite author in the entire world. I'm a huge hardcore fan. So I read Melina Marchetta like way too long ago to mention, and with her first book, Looking for Ala Brandy, and I kind of fell in love with her then. And then there was like eons of time between that book and her next book that I read, which was Saving Francesca, which is, along with Jellicoe Road, I think is like my favorite book that she wrote. She's
No, The Piper's Son.
Which is also a really
Sorry.
good book. Yeah, no, I agree. But Saving Francesca's got like a place in my heart. I reread that book to this day. Anyways, we decided to do On the Jellicoe Road, which we refer to as Jellicoe Road, just in case anyone's questioning what's going on there. It won the Michael L. Prince Award. It was a nominee for Young Adult Book Award in Australia somewhere. I'm reading off Goodreads. Sorry, guys. Australian Book Industry Award nominee for Book of the Year for older children, and Sybil's Award nominee for Adult Young Fiction. There's also a bunch of other awards that aren't on there, I don't think. Maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, it's won so many awards, it's not even funny. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite YA books. And I'm just going to read the synopsis, so for those of you who don't know what's going on. Taylor is leader of the boarders at Jellicoe School. She has to keep the upper hand in the territory wars and deal with Jonah Griggs, I can never say this word right, enigmatic, I can read it, I can't say it, leader of the cadets, and someone she thought she would never see again. And now Hannah, the person Taylor has come to rely on, has disappeared. Taylor's only clue is a manuscript of 5 kids who lived in Jellicoe 18 years ago. She needs to find out more, but this means confronting her own story, making sense of her strange recurring dream, and finding her mother, who abandoned her on the Jellicoe Road. So I'm just going to start off this discussion by saying that I remember very distinctly when I first read this book being really confused. Like for the first, like I'm not joking when I say like this, like the first, like even more than that, like almost half of the book. It wasn't until I was halfway through that I was like, oh. And usually, I'm not going to lie, I am one of those people that will read like 2 chapters, and if I don't like it, I will put it down. But it's Melina Marchetta. I mean, she's the most amazing writer ever. So I continued to read it, and I was like, oh, I love it. Oh, it's great. Oh, my goodness. And then I was hooked.
So I had basically the same thing that happened. I had read Saving Francesca and loved it because Emily made me. And then Emily said, and now you have to read this. And so I started reading it, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like,
it is different than Saving Francesca.
I had to reread the first chapter like twice before going into the second one. And even and I kept on reading it because I love Saving Francesca and because you made me. And I'm so glad I did, because once I got through about the first third, I was like, oh my God, I don't want this to end, but oh my God, what's going on? And I used to be the person that wouldn't ever not finish a book because it's a book, it's a priceless object. Like, how can I not read it through? And then I was like, you know what? My time is worth something. And so I do leave books. Like, if I don't like it, I'm like, no, I'm not reading this. Like, I don't need this. And I'm so glad that you made me because
And usually, like, also when I get books that are really difficult to start reading, I don't like that. But even after I finish reading it, I tend to not like that. I complain about it in reviews and I go, that took too long to get into. In this case, though, it was necessary. It was so necessary because it was totally Taylor's brain that was so, excuse my French, fucked up. And I think that was really reflective in this book. Like, it was so confusing because she is such a confusing person. You know? Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
well, I think that no, I agree. What I felt like, because I've read it like 5 times now, um, and I was gonna say, I read it in an ebook,
Yeah.
and so I didn't have the benefit of the back
Yeah.
summary.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I'm so glad that you offered to summarize it because I was like, there is no way for me to summarize this book.
I agree.
Like, how do you explain what this book is?
Yeah.
And it is so perfect that you have to grind through it and that you're confused through, because I think that every single character in the of this book in the beginning is a little bit lost and a little bit confused.
Yeah.
And a little bit trying to find their way, and it requires all of the events that happen, and it requires kind of them searching through themselves to get there, and you kind of have to live through that.
Yeah, I really agree. And I just love the characterization. Like, I also loved her description of Jonah Griggs. Like, I remember I'm an avid romance reader. Like, I love romance books. I'm very proud of myself, actually. I have an ability to pick out the main man from like a mile away. It doesn't have to be a romance book. It can be pretty much any book. It can be a fantasy book. It can be mystery. I can just pick them out. I love romance, and I just know where it's gonna go. And this is one of the few books that has tricked me. I remember reading.
Really? Because I knew it, like, off the bat. I was like, there is shit here.
Yeah.
Something went down before, and something's gonna go down now. Like, and then halfway through the book, I was like, oh, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I'm wrong. I'm completely wrong.
No, that's exactly what it did for me. No, that's exactly. So at the very beginning, I was like, Jonah Griggs. Okay, that might be it. And then I was like, but then I go so confused. I was like, wait a second, that cannot be him. It's definitely not him. Never mind. My radar is totally off. And then, of course, it turned out to be him. And I was like, but it was sort of weird. Her descriptor of him was very unromantic. Like,
no, but the thing is that I feel like, again, going back to the confusion part, like, to me, it sounded like when she first describes him, it's through Taylor's eyes.
I really agree with you.
And Taylor doesn't want to see him as anything good or nice or romantic, or like, she wants to put him in like the smallest drawer in his heart, in her heart and mind, and just make him insignificant.
Yeah. I think you're totally right.
And I definitely felt that, and I was like, okay, so this is why he's going to be mean, because the main character wants to make him insignificant. But then as they actually met up and played out, I was like, wait, no, maybe I'm wrong. Like, like maybe like definitely shit went down because you're told that, but maybe it's not that kind of shit. Like, it's like,
yeah, I agree with you.
Maybe there's something else going on here. And granted, there's so many other things going on here.
Things going on here. Which is why the book is so good.
Like, the amount of things going on. Well.
Surprisingly, also, my like romance, I love romance. I think it's great. And so I love YA because they've got great romance. But in this book in particular, I love the foursome that she wrote, you know? Yeah, sorry. Keep going. Yeah,
yes,
no.
I was gonna describe this as kind of like not anti-romantic, but kind of like, not like, she manages to make a foursome that you can definitely tell are are two couples.
Yeah.
But none of the four want to be a couple. Like, neither couple wants to be a couple, but they end up being couples, and it is in the most romantic and touching and kind of intimate. It is intimacy.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
what Melina does so well is intimacy in all of her books.
Yes.
Like in the like, I'm totally diverging, but I apologize. But Finikin of the Rock, like that's one of the reasons why it's so good. Is like it's a fantasy novel and it's so raw and it's intimacy, and she manages to capture it so well. And I love her so much.
That's a separate story for that separate time. But we love this author, and the reason why we started with Jellicoe is because there's a rumor that a third book is coming out in kind of the Saving Francesca universe, and so we want to save that conversation for when that book comes out. But I think that definitely what this foursome has is that they love each other, and they don't want to be couples, but they have the intimacy of a couple of couples, and they have that, and that intimacy is very hard to fake, and it's very hard to deny. Yeah. And they're 17 going on 18, and so it's really hard to really going through really weird and complicated shit. And so it's
like even surreal.
Yes.
Yeah, it's all like in your head, which is awesome. And you know what's even better though is that it's all in their head, and yet they make it. So am I saying this right? They manifest it into a physical form through this weird border war, right?
So okay, so
it's just odd, but it fits so wonderfully in the story. I don't know.
So I'm gonna go ahead, and we've been sort of skirting around the plot at this point in time. Yeah. And it is a very hard, complicated plot. And I don't think we'll be able to really ruin everything, but I'm about to, because I'm kind of sick of this skirting around. Yeah. But basically, Jellicoe Road is this very, very small town in, correct me if I'm wrong, the kind of outskirts, interior of Australia.
Outback, yeah.
Outback, that's the word. And it's 6 hours away from Sydney on car. And we know this because they mention it quite a lot of times. And there's a boarding school where it's a state boarding school. So most of the kids there are orphans, or the parents can't really be there at that point in time, but they're also highly smart orphans. Then there's the town, and then during the summer, a cadet school from Sydney comes in and does kind of like their summer school, outback-ish, live in the wild, roughing it out type of thing.
Yeah.
And during those 3 months, a war goes on between the town kids, the school kids, and the cadets. And it's a turf war, and it's been going on for as long as the kids know. Yeah. And Taylor is selected as the leader of the school. Mm-hmm. And she has to deal with it at a time where the school has been losing a lot of territory, and not a lot of people trust her, because when she was 14, she ran away with a cadet. Enter Jonah Griggs.
Yeah.
Jonah Griggs killed his father. And that's one of the first introductions we get to him.
Yeah. He's a murderer.
He is a murderer. He killed his...
as kind of crazy kind of guy. Big, burly. Crazy.
Big, burly. Nobody quite, like, the rumor mill doesn't quite know why he killed the father. And then there was the whole running away when he was 14 with another girl. Like...
Yeah. Yeah.
it's sketchy. And
Yeah.
then so they both have very sketchy pasts because one is a murderer and the other one, before she ran away, a hermit killed himself in front of her / next to her. I never quite understood the positions, but there's blood all over her, is the point.
Her, you mean Taylor?
On Taylor. And he whispers something in her ear, and that is a very key part. Because Taylor has had a very hard childhood, and she's compartmentalized and kind of managed to forget a lot of things in her past. And it's described...
I think is fascinating. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I find it fascinating because it's described as she's given memories to certain people.
Yeah.
And one of them, there's this terrible memory and she can't remember, and it is the first memory that she told what would become one of her best friends the first night she's in the orphanage after being left in Jellicoe Road by her mother at age 7 in a 7-Eleven. And I forget what the friend's name is called.
Worst names, you know me.
It's with R.
Oh.
No. Yes.
One sec.
Anyway, so during this very turbulent time of hers, because Hannah, who is her caretaker, for lack of a better word, is gone. Rafi. So she tells Rafi, you have to give it back. And Rafi's like, no, I realize that this memory belongs to you, but I'm going to keep it for your own good. And like that, she's forgotten certain things, and other people kind of hold that memory, but not in such a self-aware way, I feel.
Yeah, and I think that what I like about Melina Marchetta as well is that like a lot of her books start off with like main character not being connected to anybody, like they're really disconnected. And in this book, it sort of intimates that there is definite connections, but she writes about them very dispassionately. And then towards the end of the book, all of a sudden, it's like you clue into how closely connected a lot of these characters are. Like basically, like Taylor and Rafi are super close because she shared these memories with them, but they're sort of written in a way at the very beginning of the book, kind of very disconnected, like as if the main character, is very disconnected from the world, kind of observing. And like she does this also in Saving Francesca as well. Like she starts off at a school, right? She's not connected to anybody, and this makes sense because she's new to the school. But she makes these friends at school, and she's so determined not to be friends with them that she doesn't even realize that she's become really close with them. And it's not until sorry, I know I can't help myself, but she does that a lot, though. I think with a lot of her characters,
she does that a lot. But I find that the way she does it with Taylor is even more interesting because this is a place where she should have connections. She should be friends. She's lived there for 10 years. She went back. She was left there at 7. She should be connected, and she should be connected with even more with the people that she believes.
And yet her only connection is Hannah, just that she says. She's only interested in Hannah at the beginning of the novel, which is really interesting. The fact that anyways. Yeah. I like her.
Well, so Hannah's a very interesting character. She is the adult of the house. So the orphanage is split in like 6 houses, and Hannah is the adult of this house, of the house that Taylor has. Mm-hmm. And Hannah has basically been the adult present in Taylor's life since she was 7. And Taylor claims that it's the closest person, and she feels that she knows Hannah the best out of everybody in school. And then the first thing that we find out in this very secret meeting, when they pass when the elders pass kind of like the leadership to her and to the other house leaders, is that she doesn't actually know Hannah that as well as she thought, because Hannah asks questions and gives scones, and Taylor has never been asked questions by Hannah, and Taylor has never eaten scones with Hannah, and yet she's lived in Hannah's house for as long as she can sort of remember. So it's a very special disconnect that shows how bad Taylor is really in her own self. Like,
Do you mean like how Taylor is very disconnected from her own self? You mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
And disconnected from other people too. Like, and she doesn't really think too much about it until all of a sudden it's shoved in her face.
yeah, like, because at first she's like, well, whatever, you know, like, I don't need anyone. I don't need Rafi, who used to be my best friend. I don't need Ben, who used to be like, we used to be inseparable. Like, because she, in the first two, like, in the first chapter, we find this all out. She goes back to her house after seeing Ben and Rafi, and she says it straight out. We used to be inseparable, and now, like, they can't. And I love it because she plays the victim, and they don't let her.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah.
Because
no, keep going. Keep going. Sorry.
well, I was gonna say this goes back to the whole like my issue with Fangirl. And the fact that the main character plays victim all the time, and somehow she gets rewarded for it. And
we're not punished for whatever.
She doesn't get punished for anything. Meanwhile, Hannah is taken to task. And taken to task also means that when she is actually really sick, really depressed, like can't go to, like, is yelling at people and can't sleep, but also can't get out of bed and stuff, the first thing that Rafi tells her is, people are not running away from you. They're not scared of you. They're scared for you.
Mm-hmm.
They want you well. And I found that awesome because it's like, not only am I not going to let you be the victim, I'm also not going to let you play the, I am all alone, woe me, you know?
Mm-hmm. I really agree. I think that Melina Marchetta also in all of her books, especially the ones that I just reread recently, well, yeah, in all her books, Jellicoe Road, Saving Francesca, and even like Finnegan of the Rock, depression is a huge topic in her book.
Piper's Son also.
Sorry?
The Piper's Son.
You're absolutely right. Piper's Son also. And like, I don't understand depression because I don't experience it, and I find it fascinating to read it because from everyone that I've talked to, that like I know about it through their experiences, and I find that Melina Marchetta, she does it so accurately, or even just like she doesn't try to make it like this is what it's like for everyone. It's sort of like that this is this character and that's how they experience depression. I just think it's so refreshing.
So talking from a point of view of someone who suffers depression and anxiety, because they both they're separate things, but they sort of go hand in hand, and it gets shown very well with Marchetta's books.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see it that much in Finnegan, but definitely, I mean, Saving Francesca is all revolves around this, and in Jellicoe Road, it's one where it doesn't get said straight out, which I loved. Nobody discusses it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody names it by name, which is named in, for example, the Francesca and Piper's Son books.
I do love how they didn't name it though in Jellicoe, because even though it's featured a big part of the book, it doesn't need a name, you know, like it wasn't like it wasn't acknowledging it, so it didn't need a name. It was just something that was wrong. Sorry.
Like what I loved about Jellicoe is that it's never made a huge deal at the fact that Taylor's just not right. She's not good at that moment.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And all her friends are there, and nobody just tells her, well, you should just like get up, shower, and like go to school. Like, I'm sure that just
tomorrow.
like,
let me get tomorrow.
you'll be fine. It's a phase. And like, I find that Jonah coming in and just like letting her deal, because like I love the fact that Jonah kind of pushes her to a point and then just goes and then stands off.
Yeah.
And pushes her and then stands off.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, I know you need this, but you will do it in your own pace.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you.
And you can tell that he's gone through his own process and recognizes it in Taylor and wants her well, but also knows that pushing her and telling her, oh, this is what you're feeling, is not going to work.
Yeah. I think the romance between Jonah and Taylor are just is awesome, because just kind of reiterating what you just said. Like, I love how he's so patient with her, and again, just sort of waits a little bit. Like he's good at kind of waiting to see what she's going to do, and then supports her.
Yeah, I like Griggs because he lets her do what she wants to her, and yet is there to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
When he knows that it's not going to work out, because he knows that at this moment in time, like when Taylor needs guidance and asks for help, he'll be there for guidance and help.
Yeah.
But he also realizes that there's points in time when she's not going to take that advice. And what she needs at that point in time is not advice. But also, you can see how he gets frustrated with her and how he has his own, like, wants and ideas and all of these things. And
yeah,
I love him. I love him.
Yeah, he's like one of my favorite main guy characters.
Man, he's fantastic.
Yeah, I love this book. I like this book a lot. It's really good. I also love how I read this book when I was like 15 or so or something like that. I was definitely in my teens when I first read this book. And I remember reading it and being like, there's sex in it. Which makes me a dirty person. But
but I love it because it's such an honest.
Yeah, it so fits the characters and it's so good.
It's such an honest and not glamorous show and not gratuitous.
Yeah.
I love a sex scene. I mean, like,
yeah,
you gotta admit those things outright.
Yeah.
But this one, but in teenage books, it needs to be done very delicately, because I love how she is true to her characters that, at 17, you want sex. And there's all these hormones and there's lust. And I love how there's a point in time where, like, he just kisses her because he has to. And how much that means to her, because then she gets angry at him because he doesn't do it anymore. Yeah. And he's like, we've been surrounded by these amount of people, and like, I want you kind of to myself. And they get into a huge fight and don't talk again because they're 17. And that's what you do. You fucking freak out.
Oh, I want to read you something real quick. So I'm just trying to find it.
Okay, go. Well, while you find it, I'm going to finish my thing about
I found it right now.
Oh, never mind. Go.
Okay. So basically, Jonah's talking about his father. I'm not going to spoil it because you should read it. But basically, not you as well, people who are watching the video. Basically, he's talking to her, and she says, what are you thinking? I whisper after a while. That you deserve romance, he says. I can't place with my fingers. Let me see. And yada, yada, yada. It goes on. This is the sex scene, basically, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, I love how Melina Marchetta writes this. She talks about the sex scene towards it, and towards the end, like it's not romantic at all. Like it is.
It
But
is touching, but it's not romantic. It is true, and it is raw in the best way, and it is intimate in the best way, and it is like definitely not what like little girls imagine their first time to be, but it is like it's kind of one of those things where if my daughter had her first time and it looked like this, I'd be like, she won the lottery.
Yeah. Well, and so basically, there's like it's fumbling and all that kind of stuff, right? You guys get the gist, but
Awkward.
but I don't want it awkward. That's great. Yeah. And so obviously you can kind of understand, like, you know, kind of awkward first times, all that kind of stuff. You know, no one gets whatever. Anyways, and so it ends here, like, but I don't want to let go because tonight I'm not looking for anything more than being a part of him, because being part of him isn't just anything, it's kind of everything. It's awesome.
No, but you were going to read the part that
I love how she uses periods. It's
what chapter is that? Because
it's chapter 23, the end of it.
okay, no, because like the thing is that when he mentions the like you deserve romance,
yeah,
there's a part there that just kind of explains relationships perfectly.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find it. Okay, so she goes like, wait, give me a second. What are you thinking? I whisper after a while. That you deserve romance. I trace his face with my fingers. Let me see. A guy tells me that he would have thrown himself in front of a train if it wasn't for me, and then drive 7 hours straight without winching once on a wild goose chase in search of my mother with absolutely no clue where to start. He is, in all probability, going to get court-martialed because of me, has put up with my moodiness all day long, and knows exactly what to order for me for breakfast. It doesn't get any more romantic than that.
That is, I wish I read that. That's good. It's so true, though. I love it.
And that is the definition of romance.
Yeah.
I mean, like, screw roses and chocolate.
Yeah.
Like, true romance
It's action.
Yeah, it's
knowing what to order for breakfast.
Yes. It's knowing the person so well that when they're so shitty or they're having a rough time, you know exactly what to comfort her. And knowing that you have someone there that is stable, that will be there for you at all times, that's romance. And I love Marchetta because I find I have a lot of issues with a lot of the YA novels because I find that there's this like unrealistic, slightly unhealthy version of love. Twilight being a very perfect example of it.
Actuated that, but
like, and it gives like, I mean, we're talking about depression here. We're talking about really real stuff that children and teenagers and adults, we all go through it. And teenagers and children learn from example. And if the book and the example that you're reading is a creepy guy staring at you and that is shown as romantic, then that's what you're going to want. And that puts you in a very precarious, especially for women, it gives you this very precarious kind of like, I need to be saved by a glittery man. You know? And then you have this very real, like, she doesn't need saving. She would have done this road and she would have gone there and she would have probably done the same thing with or without Jonah. But Jonah gives her strength. It's not that Jonah's doing the saving or the help. It's that you need a partner because you need to fall back on someone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like don't get me wrong. I love romance. I like that they give me chocolate on Valentine's Day. I'm like,
Oh yeah.
yes. But, for example, I'm okay with chocolate on the 15th of February because I know it's cheap and therefore I get more. That's romance right there. But, like being able to like go home and knowing that or just go out and knowing that that person will know your drink and you don't even have to worry about trying to figure out what the hell to drink. That shows trust, that shows that they are listening to you, that they're paying attention to you. And I find that there's much more caring in those actions and in those showing of what that they know what is important to you than I would give my life for you, Karamia type of romance.
I would jump off a cliff for you.
Let me drown now. Let me go into the sun and burn.
We watch too many vampire movies. Or books. We read too many vampire books.
No, I've only watched the movies because they're ridiculous and they glitter.
You saw Twilight?
I saw them all except for the last two.
I'm impressed. The last two are the best, the most ridiculous.
Well, yes, obviously, but I used to have this group of friends. We would
12 hours? Pretty impressive. Well, I'm exaggerating. It was something like 3 weeks.
No, I used to have this group of friends, and we used to dress up in like black and gothic and do all this crazy makeup with a shit ton of glitter and go and watch Twilight.
I love it. When was this? That's awesome.
UBC, my first few years with Asia.
You have me read the books? Oh my goodness. That's awesome.
I tried.
Mm-hmm.
I legitimately tried.
I want on record that Isabel refuses point blank to read any Twilight book. But I've convinced her that if I read Lord of the Rings by December, she'll read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell in January.
Okay. I would like to point out that this woman is a young adult librarian who somehow got a diploma without reading the seminal novel in fantasy, young adult.
Yeah.
She claims to be a fantasy fan.
Oh, you cut off. Oh no, you're not there. Come back. Crazy Ben. Well, imagine her haranguing me for the rest of this video about not reading Lord of the Rings. Hee. Oh no, are you sure you're still not there? Boo! Come back. Come on. Okay.
Seriously.
I hear noise. Oh, I don't hear noise anymore. Oh, there you are. Ha.
Yeah.
Perfect. You're haranguing me for not reading Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. So I think that that's good for tonight.
Yeah.
Next month we are doing Uprooted by Naomi Novik. It was my birthday present last year from Emily, and I loved it. And just as a little like glimpse, Emma Thompson is hoping to produce
I'm so excited.
the movie adaptation. So we will leave you with that, and happy reading.
Yeah. Toodles.